Okay, Chairman, so we can start the next item when you're ready.
Has the recording started, has it? I can't see anything on my screen. Oh, yes, it has. Yes, it has, absolutely. I can see it now. My mistake. Welcome back, everyone. We all eventually made it, didn't we? I think, yes. So we'll go on to what was item 4 on the agenda, which is entitled Water Supply Issues in South Staffordshire. And we've got 2 representatives with us, I believe. I think we've got 2. I certainly see one. Have we Matthew McKenna? Are you on your own, or is there? Have you got?
No. My Jack Robinson's here as well.
Oh, you've got the 2 of you. Okay. Then this got 2 representatives from Severn Trent. Local Plans and Environmental Health will be in attendance following a request from members for this matter to be subject to scrutiny. Now then, Matthew, can I call you Matthew?
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah.
You've got a presentation you want to make to us, don't you? And then we'll go into questions. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to, if we just run through the context of why we're here today, that might help guide our session. So I spoke to Lorraine a few weeks ago, and it followed, I think, a bit of email chatter between Lorraine and some Severn Trent, and it was around some perception of issues or possible future issues. And so what I've prepared today, I don't believe it's going to answer your questions in full. But I think today's a good first step to give you an awareness of how we invest, how we look at performance, and how we look to minimise disturbance and risk to customers in the future. I listened to I was fortunate. First of all, thank you very much for being flexible with the IT. We had a bit of a tough time this afternoon trying to get this sorted out, but thank you for allowing us to have a separate session that allows us to present and also can actually hear us, which is fantastic. But listening to the previous session, it was really nice to hear some of the messages that we use in our business. The talk about KPIs is really good, and some of the key points raised in that session resonated with me with other bits of our business planning and our investment, especially around COVID at the moment, which is obviously quite a hot topic. But while it may only be temporary, it's making some quite large changes to how we plan and how we invest. So yeah, so just to summarise, it's possibly not going to answer all your queries today, but hopefully it'll give you an awareness of how we operate, and we're happy to take on any sort of queries at the end, or we can talk through it. With there being 46 or 44 people on this session, excluding myself and Jack, I'd like to run an open session where if you do get stuck, or if I've explained something incorrectly, or you can't understand what I'm trying to say, if you could stop me and I could re-explain. But with 44, I think we might struggle to do that. So I'm going to make an effort to be very slow in the way I speak, and I'm trying to explain things as best I can. If you do get very stuck or you get very lost, please feel free to stop me. I'm sure Jack will stop me if I ramble on. But please feel free to stop me, and I will try and go back over a few points if needed. So the plan for today's session was first of all to introduce ourselves. That's myself and Jack. I also want to give you an introduction to Severn Trent Water, give you a bit of a focus on South Staffordshire, both water supply and waste, and look specifically at pressure performance. So we talk about water supply. There's 2 things there: the availability, i.e. you've got water, but also the pressure of that water. And the key measure there between those 2 is pressure, making sure that people have got adequate pressure to get supply water into their property and to do their taps effectively. So that's the key measure I thought we'd go through in detail, just to give you a better understanding of that. And then I split the final 2 sections into 2 elements, which would be proactive and also reactive investment. So I want to talk to you about how we plan for growth, how we plan for changes in source availability, and then talk about how we react to incidents or poor pressure. And I'm going to talk about ODIs. I'll talk about it in a bit more detail, but ODIs are very similar to your KPIs. So we used to have KPIs 10 years ago, but now it's shifted to a thing called ODIs, which are very similar. So again, I think I've put those points off already, but basically from initial discussion, this is what I want to go through in this session. Are there any other initial expectations? I was thinking it's going to be a smaller group of 44. Is there anything else the chair would like to focus on in this session, or do you think we might tailor our discussions to during the session? It's okay if not. So this is an open forum. Obviously, this is an open discussion. It's been recorded, and possibly the public will see it in the future. And with that in mind, I feel more comfortable giving limited detail on specific elements of our system. We do not operate parts of critical national infrastructure and some of the key assets. The data around those and the detail about them is protected for good reason. And so I'm not going to go through in absolute detail today some elements of our system, but I will give you an overview. I'm happy to have offline discussions later on. Is that fair with everyone? Does that seem reasonable?
Chairman, Councillor Boyle here. Are we going to look at some of the structural problems that Severn Trent are responsible for?
I'm not sure if the chair's got these on mute, maybe. So within the discussion, perhaps at the end, let's get a list together. Let's start to look at those. I possibly won't have a response for you today, but we can let's open them up and have a start to unpack them and see what the issues are. We'll try to look at resolving them or understanding them at least. Is that okay, Councillor Boyle?
Oh, that's a good starting point, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Thanks very much for that, Councillor. Right. Stepping on to the first slide. We weren't sure we'd be able to see us today, so I thought we'd put a picture in ourselves. I'm the guy in the yellow jacket on the left-hand side. I'm Matt McKenna. I sit within our chief engineers team. I'm a strategic asset manager for our large diameter pipelines. So effectively, I look at a lot of our strategic grids, so how we move water between our key sources, but also look at a lot of our large diameter pipelines. And when it comes to large communities that might be affected by a supply interruption, it's probably one of the larger pipes, so I thought it's a good reason for me to be here. And Jack, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, yeah. The picture on the right is a younger me. So I'm Jack Robinson. I'm a strategic catchment planner. I focus on responding to local plans and long-term strategic sewerage issues, so wastewater networks.
So we brought today with us a mixture of water and waste, and so we've got a bit of an opportunity there to. I don't know a great deal about waste, I'll be honest, and Jack's hopefully there to help out and fill in a few blanks if there are any. So stepping forward, and again with this session, hopefully I'm going to be really trying to keep it quite simple, because I'm not sure your level of understanding around the water industry and how it works, and so some of it may be very basic to you. Please just give me an opportunity to explain, and we'll go through that. So first of all, I thought I'd kick off with when Severn Trent Water was created, just as a real obvious starting point. It was created from a number of different councils and water supply elements across the West Midlands, and we've been around since 1974. As with the council, we've got quite a clear purpose, and our purpose is set out to serve our communities and customers. And our goal, which we've actually achieved this year, is to become the most trusted water company in the UK, and our target now is to maintain that going forward. Being a water company, we're licensed, so our commercial customers can move between different companies, but our domestic customers, which makes the vast majority of our customers, are unable to do so. And so with that, there are specific responsibilities, and for us, being almost good enough is not enough. We are regulated and we're licensed, and our customers are quite right. They've got high expectations. So you mentioned before in the previous presentation about willingness to pay. We look at willingness to pay. We dive into what customers are willing to pay for to improve their service, and we also, through that same process, understand what their performance expectations are. So, and we try to meet those. We also operate probably similar to the council in a planning cycle. So in our current investment planning cycle now, which is years 20 to 2025, this is our current planning cycle. I've listed a few things there on the right-hand side, which may be of interest to you. So probably the key one for anyone who's a Severn Trent bill payer is that we're aiming for a reduction of 5% in our bills in real terms. So we're cutting the cost of our service, but we're also aiming to improve our service. So with that reduction in cost, we're aiming to reduce sewer flooding down by 8%. So however many surflings we have, we're trying to charge that down by 8%. We're also aiming to improve 95% of low pressure issues first time. So we'll go into a bit more around pressure, but that shows our intention there to be, have a decent go at it and get it fixed first time is quite a high target. We're also, which I think there are perhaps a few other council issues, but we're also aiming to reduce our leakage by 15%. And also, with aligned to all those elements, we're also looking to reduce pollutions by 17% across the business. Now, those may seem like quite ambitious goals if you're working in the water industry, but the next, if I draw your attention to the box at the bottom right-hand side, that's actually our performance in the previous planning cycle. That's from years 2015 to 2020. Quite critically there, we reduced our leakage by 6%, which was our target, and we hit it. We're obviously doubling that target this year to get it down by this planning cycle to get to 15%. But quite critically, within this period, we reduced our internal sewer flooding events by 13%. And we also reduced our water supply introductions by nearly 50%. So those measures in totality show us that we're, one, losing less water, and our customers are receiving a more consistent and high quality, or the good quality supply they deserve, but also we're causing less disturbance to them. So that's sort of how we measure our progress, measure our performance. Those are sort of our KPIs, our key performance indicators. Now, I cover the entire company, but I have some knowledge of South Staffordshire. So in preparation, so just sort of give you, and again, thinking about security and not sharing fully the way that South Staffordshire operates, I've had a look at the plans, and I can give you an idea that basically, effectively, South Staffordshire, the control group or water resource zone, that's the way we term the sort of the area or the region. It's primarily fed by boreholes. There's a number of boreholes in the area. Sugar Hall over near Cannock Chase, there's a decent sized one there, and there's a lot of interconnectivity. So within South Staffordshire, we've got multiple sources, which is great for you guys, because it means that if we had to do maintenance at one, perhaps reduce it down, we've got an opportunity to increase another and then maintain that supply to our customers with very little disturbance. It's not a discrete area, there's some interconnectivity, but it's looking at it from my perspective, in terms of risk and in terms of investment, it looked quite robust from the plans I saw today. So that's a brief introduction to Severn Trent Water, and also what we target, how we look to invest, and what we think is important to our customers, but also in terms of investment. So a few IT issues there. So I want to focus on pressure. So I mentioned earlier on about pressure to say that when customers say they might have a supply issue, there's availability, but also pressure of the water. Pressure is key, because without pressure, there is no water. So I thought I'd focus on this and just drag it out as being a topic that's covered today. So Ofwat are a regulator, so that's they're our water regulator, our performance, and also our investment. And they monitor our performance using ODIs, which are outcome delivery incentives. If you think those like your KPIs, they're very similar. So they're very interested in how we measure pressure to customers. During this planning cycle, we've modified the measure. So effectively, for us, for Severn Trent as a business, any property that experiences 26 or more days of low pressure over a rolling 5-year period is added to our qualifying property register. So any property across the business that receives 26 or more days of full pressure over a 5-year period is added to that register, and then is targeted for investment. So effectively, if you receive 5 days of poor pressure in 1 year and aggregate that over 5 years, we notify ourselves that has been an issue, and then we look to invest in that. To put that into context, I had a quick look today, and of our 4.something million customers, properties that we supply with water or take waste away from, we have around 19,000. That's our current target for the qualifying property register. So of that, like 4.5 million, 4 million population, there's 19,000, quite a small percentage of those actually fall into that category of receiving low pressure. Being on that register, it's is a negative for Severn Trent, that we have what's called a reward and penalty measure. So in how Ofwat regulates our performance, our investment is if we have a number, say for example, over 19,500, we get penalised. So we're forced to pay a penalty to Ofwat, or we not actually to Ofwat, we lose our ability to charge that to our customers. But if we outperform, if we reduce the number of customers that receive poor pressure, we get a reward. So it's beneficial to us, massively beneficial to us to get those numbers down and maintain a good, consistent supply of water to our customers. The last bullet point there, I've just added the context. So I want to just make it really clear. I've made it very clear, I think, there. That's how we measure what poor pressure is. We've got a number of properties on that register. We understand that number. As asset managers, we understand what the issue is effectively, and we're actively working to manage that and reduce that number down. And that the number of, say, I just picked out the number 19,500. That's a in-amp measure, and we're constantly ratcheting and pulling that number down. So in order for us to keep getting reward, keep being successful, we need to keep targeting that number and keep reducing them down. So, and I thought, and the item on the right there isn't quite focused on it, but I think it highlights some of the issues that perhaps are important to this session. So the key challenges we face as a business is that we have to meet the demands of a growing population. And with COVID, it's highlighted not only a growing population, but a population that changes the way they use water. So you picked out before in your discussion around green bins that people have been at home over the summer. People have done more gardening, therefore people have spent more money on green bins, and as a result, you guys have had to collect in more waste. People have spent more time over the summer and used, I think it's upwards of 20-30% more water. So during the really hot weather period, during the hot weather period during the lockdown, we were really running a close to maximum capacity. We were really putting out a lot of water, and that was due to the weather extreme of it being very hot and sunny, but also COVID having an effect. So it's quite an interesting shift in how we understand our performance, but something that we needed to meet and something that we did meet. We did have customers that had poor supplies, but we did meet the vast majority of our customers' requirements for water. But also, I want to tie into that. What's really key to this as well is we also have to we have environmental obligations. So the abstraction we make, the water we have to take from the environment has got to be sustainable. So we have one factor where we need to put more water into the system, but also we need to remove less water in certain areas, which, as an example, I mentioned Sugar Hall, and I know nothing about the abstraction in that sort of area. But if, say, for example, we need to maintain a level in the local river, we may need to reduce our extraction at that site, which may put pressure on another site in the area to supply water. So we've got to balance up a number of needs, and in order to do that, we've got to have a plan. So we have got a strategy. And the first point of that strategy is to work with customers to reduce unnecessary usage. So we work a lot with house builders, and we work with house builders there to ensure that when they're building a new property, they use things like water efficient toilets. They use other elements in the household that limit the amount of water being used. We also work with washing machine suppliers to make sure that they're producing efficient equipment. Because that's quite simply the easiest way to reduce demand is to work with our customers and do that awareness. I think we've also, perhaps come to that later on, but we've also committed to visit something like every school in our region over the next 5 years to do an education piece with different age groups to educate them about water usage. But also tying back to the point I raised on the previous slide, we're also targeting a leakage reduction of 15%. So we're making sure our assets aren't leaking and making our assets aren't deteriorating at the point of failure. Sorry, just 2 seconds. So our plan over the next 5 years is to invest to prevent leaks happening in the first place. And if they do happen, to fix them more quickly. Fix them. Doesn't sound right, fix them more quickly. But to be quicker in our response to leakage. We're going to promote metering and to help vulnerable customers. I think another decision you had before was around the increase to council tax.
Matthew,
Yeah.
can I stop you there for a moment?
Yeah, go on.
Can I just ask? I think most of us here at the moment understand a lot about how Severn Trent work and the service they provide. Our concern and the reason that we've asked you to come down today is because we've got there's a lot of discontent around the area with the service that you're providing, and we wanted to ask you questions on that and explain to you the problems that it's causing. Now, how long is your presentation going to go on for? Because I'm sure that a lot of people already demonstrated this. They want to get down to the nitty-gritty of asking you questions and explaining the problems that we're having in different districts. So, is this presentation of yours going to take much longer? And is it going to be beneficial to us to resolve the issues that we've got? I've got a suspicion that it's not. It's going to tell us a lot of what we already know. So, is it going to go? Is it going to go much longer?
Thank you for asking to pause. It's a really good point. Yeah, it's not going to answer all the nitty gritty. That's why I don't actually like that. I don't like that term. But it's not going to get into the detail of it. It's not going to get into the detail of the specific issues. But what I'm trying to allude to is we do plan our investments. And to really cut down on the last two slides, we do look at proactive investments. So we look to plan for changes. So we look at strategic growth, changing source availability. We invest in those. So we invest in making sure that where we've got. So we look at your I'm getting the name of them wrong now, but look at the council's regional growth plans. We plan for that. We plan to supply additional mains into an area or additional water if required. We also look at developer-led investments. So we work with developers to understand where they want water to be, and we provide water with additional capacity. And we invest in our infrastructure renewal. And I just really cut it short. Then we also we also invest reactively. So we invest in repairing leaks quickly. We also invest in getting customers back into supply. So in the last 2 years, we invested in a fleet of tankers now that will be able basically to provide alternative supplies to customers. And we've also expanded the skill set of our teams to make sure we can do more repairs or different repairs quickly. And we've also, as I mentioned earlier on, we've also invested in poor pressure ODIs. Now, apologies that if this wasn't the session you're looking for. This is the brief I was sort of outlined to me. I didn't realise this wasn't on, but I'm happy to change it, and if we can skip over it now if you'd like, and we can get into a bit more detail if that's what the group or that's what the chair wants to do. So if you want to leave me a different way, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to go into that detail, but I think with 40 people, it's going to be structured. So I'm not sure if the chair would like to step in and help me out. Hello.
Matthew, Mike Lawrence, while we're waiting for the chairman, can I just say I did find your presentation quite instructive and very useful. It's always nice to understand the problems and issues that you have. So I do understand a little bit better now. Can I start with a very first simple question? It's about communication. When we had the loss of water back in lockdown in the summer, your communication was absolutely terrible. I was getting information from different sources, all telling me different things, all within the same 24-hour period. It was utter chaos. Please tell me you've looked at that and you understand that, and you're coming up with a different comms technique should these incidents occur again in the future.
Thanks for that, Mike. That's a good point. So what I can do with this is that what I'll do is go back to our teams and I'll be able to clarify the process with communication. It sounds like we're probably in quite I imagine at the time we probably had a number of different incidents going on and probably a little bit of a confused message. But what I'd like to do there is just go back and clarify what we're supposed to do and check off with the team to see what actually happened. So we run quite a vigorous we have a dedicated comms team, believe it or not. We have a process where we have different channels. So we have obviously phone conversations, we have I don't know, Twitter, Facebook, those sort of things. We try to maintain consistent messages across those. So what I'd like to do is go away with that point there, Mike, and just do a bit more digging and find out exactly what happened, and then perhaps feed back into the process for what ideal communication would be.
Okay, Matthew, thank you for that. I mean, you're the most trusted water company this year, so congratulations on that. It'll be great to see next year, 2021, that your comms are improved as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Cheers.
Hello, Matthew. Councillor Boyle here. I think the chairman's temporarily lost contact, but
no, I haven't.
Oh, thank you then, David. I've got my hand up.
Well, yeah, I can't see. Your hand's not coming up on my screen.
Oh, it's up here.
Okay, I think would it be any help now to skip the rest of Matthew's presentation and go straight on to questions? I think that would probably be the best way to go forward. So, are you happy with that, Matthew?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good idea. I think it's yeah, that sounds good.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions coming at you. So, yeah, okay, carry on then, Mike. Yeah, Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. I think my question is probably for Mr. Robinson, as he seems to be the sewage waste man. What I specifically want to ask is in regard to where I live in Cheslin Hay, what's the state of the sewage pipework in Cheslin Hay? Our understanding is it's archaic. And does it want any upgrading? We've got development on the way, and over the years we've had one development after another added on to the original system, and we have problems galore. Last year we had 30 tankers a day carting raw sewage away from the pumping station in Littlewood. Now we've asked Severn Trent to give us some information, not in the spirit of criticism, but trying to get the problems sorted out, and they seem very reluctant to get more joy out of the mafia. So what I'm asking for this evening, can we get some response?
Yeah, so there's several things going on in your points there. So if we can pick them apart slightly. So around the kind of comms incidents from there. Firstly, I'd like to encourage any kind of sewer performance incident to be reported to us formally. Quite often it's the case that when these things happen, perhaps they're not reported to the right party. Sometimes they're reported into the councils rather than to us ourselves. And unless we know about the specific problems, it's really difficult to do something about it. Another point in there that you alluded to is the pressures of growth on the sewerage network. And as Matt tried to draw out, we do consider long-term plans. So the council's local plans. We're in conversations with the planning policy team about not just the current local plan, but the sites in contention for selection for the future local plans. And we're giving live feedback with them and conversations about what could be coming and what pressures they may face for us. Not only does that feedback useful for you guys to understand where our pressures are, but it also gives us that early insight to actually start making some mitigation based on the proposals and scenario planning of what may and may not come forward. Regarding Cheslin Hay itself, and I think a lot of the tankering you're alluding to, I'm aware there's a sewage pumping station down there, and it's got a really long pumped rising main, which has had specific incidents on it. It's had quite a few in the past couple of years, and in response to that, we do have a capital project looking to relay a new rising main for that. So hopefully it's things like that will resolve these issues long term.
Well, that's interesting, Jack, because as councillors, we're trying to answer other people's questions for the members of the public, and we need to get some information from Severn Trent. We're not antagonistic to you, we simply want to get some cooperation. And part of Cheslin Hay are well over 100 years old, and they probably laid down Victorian times, some of those sewers. What state are they in? We don't know, and we don't think it's unreasonable to ask that question, yet we seem get a very tardy response from Severn Trent.
Yeah, so whilst I can't comment on specific assets and their conditions, what I can say is that we do have a rolling It's a CCTV plan where we look at the age of our network, and there's certain risk metrics based on the age, the material, kind of is it near residential properties, the size of the assets, and based on what kind of risk matrix that kind of scores, we'll go out and we'll put cameras proactively down the network to look at the internal sewer conditions. And on the back of that, there's a remediation program to kind of, if it is damaged or as such, it will be repaired. But what I can say is, assets, it's not necessarily the age of them that's the biggest problem. You can have assets in there that are easily over 50 years old. That's not necessarily the biggest problem. But when we talk about capacity issues and growth coming online, the biggest thing that causes us issues is the addition of surface water. And one key thing that we try and push with the planning policy teams is the risk that new developments putting surface water into the combined sewage systems, and the effect that might have on sewer flooding or combined sewer overflow spills.
See, one of the problems we get, Matthew, is Jack, is that we've got the main sewer that runs down our High Street and Station Street is very old, and we've all the new estates built around, and they all key into this. The estates put new sewage systems in, but they lock into the old system. There's some of that is Victorian. Now they were the old ovals, and is there an industrial area? And in times gone past, a lot of chemicals leaked out into that sort of system. We don't know what sort of condition it's in, and what's the impediment to sharing that information with our local elected members?
So just
I'm not too sure in the sense.
Sorry, Jack, 2 seconds. Just back to your early point, Councillor, about the lack of communication. First of all, can I apologise for any perception that Severn Trent have not wanted to share that with you in the past. I think we do try to be open, and we do try to encourage. Well, we're here today to have that conversation with you as South Staffordshire Council and Severn Trent. So going forward, we can encourage that conversation. It may have been, it's either been misguided or lost in the past, but we are keen to make sure that we maintain strong links with yourselves as councillors and obviously representatives of the local community. So we will work through that. And I think Jack went through a little point there before about CCTV. We do way more CCTV in the waste arena than we do in water. It's a really effective way for understanding the condition of a sewer. So if you're picking out points there, you might, so straight away you mentioned there that industrial usage, you might be thinking that abrasive chemicals we put down a sewer, which might remove the cement lining or the cement structure from between the brickwork, or might damage the brickwork. The CCTV survey that not Jack's team, but the sort of wider team that Jack operates within, do check for that within their surveys. So they look for, I think, Jack, feel free to stop me, but they look for defects such as damage such as that, root ingress. You look for blockages by wipes and things like that. And that's what the CCTV surveys look for. And that's how we target our investment. So in terms of sharing that with you, Jack, I'm not sure. I've not got experience of doing that before, so I don't know if that's something that you openly share, or I'm not, or you have to take what you did, quite a technical report there.
We don't usually get asked that question.
No, Chairman, let me just say
that question. I'm not too sure on the sensitivity.
Wait a minute, Mike.
The reason I asked the question, Chair, was because we have to make planning decisions on developments, and sewage is a critical part of the infrastructure. Although it's underground and not seen, it's critical. So we need a bit of information about the state of the network in our area. We don't want any hidden financial interests or pecuniary interests. We just want to know the state of the architecture. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah. If I could just come back to the one crucial point with planning and approving or commenting and objecting on new development in terms of drainage, I'd like to bring the focus back to surface water and how surface water is managed, rather than the condition of the local surrounding system. The key point is if a new development can discharge their surface water sustainably using the non-statutory guidance of the drainage hierarchy, i.e. surface water either goes to ground, to water course, or to a designated surface water asset, then really that development can come forward sustainably, and the capacity should be able to be accommodated in the existing network. It's when new developments connect their surface water into the combined drainage system that you end up having the knock-on problems downstream.
Well, that's absolutely correct, Jack. I've actually waded ankle deep in raw sewage when we've had a heavy rain, and that's not an acceptable situation. Okay, Mike, can we let someone else have a
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I've had a good bite. Thank you very much.
Well, there's plenty more. There's plenty more on Chesley and Great Worley, but I'm hoping someone else will bring that up. Thanks, Mike. You can put your hand down now.
Chairman,
Okay.
Yeah, I think Annette wanted to come at this point, presumably to pick up on the planning aspect side of things.
Go on then. Go on.
Yeah, Councillor Lockley, I was going to do two things really. I think you asked if I wanted if I was able to manage the hands, obviously because you can't see them, so I'll do that. So if that would be helpful. But also just say Kelly and Ed are here this evening. Just in terms of the local plan and obviously the broader planning issues. But ultimately, obviously Severn Trent are a statutory consultee in relation to the infrastructure in the broader context in terms of the strategic development plans, the local plan, and obviously previously the site allocation document, and obviously clearly, whilst I appreciate there are pockets of issues, where that have been recognised this evening, similarly, those issues are picked up through discussions on individual planning applications. So, obviously we're not here tonight, obviously, to talk about the detailed applications clearly, but those conversations, do continue, and there is that constant, that constant dialogue at a strategic level and at an individual planning application conversation, as was said. Clearly, I guess any specifics we can pick up outside the meeting in terms of any specific planning application references, but I just wanted to say that. Also, Councillor Lockley, just in terms of that, in terms of, as I promised, if it helps, I'll manage the hands for you. So you've got Councillor Fisher, Councillor Ford, and Councillor Perry on hands up, and I think Councillor Wilson had her hand up as well. So I guess in alphabetical order, Councillor Fisher, I suppose. Councillor Fisher first.
Okay, thank you for that, Annette. But there are a lot of issues still. You've mentioned the planning aspects of it. There's environmental health as well, because I know in Chesley and Hay we get raw sewage coming up in people's gardens, which is not what we want, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's not been attended to. No one seems to give a damn about it, and that's something that I get complaints about, and when nothing seems to be done about it, and that's where we're coming from, I think, at the moment. As regards Chesley and Hay, there's a lot of problems. Mike Boyle's only spoken about one problem. There are 3 or 4 other problems. The raw sewage coming up in people's gardens is one. Excuse me. That's been going on for a long time, and there's not been attended to. We want to know why, and we want to get it sorted, because we're here to represent our people who've got complaints, and they've got complaints, and it's an environmental issue as well, and a public health issue, and it needs attending to, and it needs attending to urgently. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Annette. Did you want to add anything to Annette? Your hand's still up.
Sorry, no, I'll take my hand down. It was just to be able to say that obviously Councillor Fisher's got his hand.
Yeah, can you put your hand down, Mike?
Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Fisher, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman.
Sorry,
can you hear me, Rob? Is there someone trying to talk?
It's Matt McKenna. I was trying to respond to the point just raised by the chair. Then we do understand that if we do empathise with customers who receive raw sewage in their properties or on their properties. As a water company, that's pretty much the worst thing that can happen. Receiving no water is not great, and in certain circumstances, if you get on dialysis, it's terrible. But raw sewage is a terrible thing, and that's why it was one of our key measures. That's why we target it so hard. So I've taken a few notes down about Chesley and Hay in particular. I don't really know that area. I don't really know waste very well, but I think that's probably the smart thing to do as a follow-up to this session, is to have a follow-on session where we do, I'm not saying dig into that a bit more, but we do start to understand that element a bit more, and we can perhaps give you a better response, because I'm definitely not prepared to answer I'm not prepared to answer the questions. I'm not prepared, as in I don't have the detail around me to answer those questions today. But it's a very good point, and we do definitely, it's a terrible thing to happen, and we do try to avoid it. But we will come up with something to respond to give you and understanding so that you can feed that back to your local communities. I think that's probably quite a sensible point there. And sorry if I jumped on someone else there. I think someone else was about to speak, but
No,
that's
that's
get that point across.
Thank you, Matthew. Councillor Fisher, you want
Thank
to
you,
ask a
Chairman.
question?
I'm sure like other members, I could probably spend this whole meeting just talking about the issues we have locally in Essington with water and sewage. So I would welcome arranging another local meeting to discuss the issues in detail, maybe by locality or by smaller areas. But I'd just like to focus on one of the wider concerns and experiences that I currently have with Severn Trent. And it's been referenced yourselves already, and other councils have already referenced it. And that was earlier this year in the first lockdown. Like other communities, we suffered repeatedly, numerous spells of no water supply. We had news crews down interviewing residents, and we had your chief executive on TV blaming the public, basically saying they could not keep up with the demand of the communities and saying it was their own fault. Now, while I appreciate everyone was at home, not everyone was out watering the gardens. Plus, there were loads of high demand businesses closed, such as pubs, restaurants, salons, gyms, leisure centres, factories, car washes. They were all closed. So when I discussed this directly with an engineer who attended a burst water main 3 or 4 days in, he told me the local Bushby reservoir, which we're apparently fed from, could not treat the water fast enough, and they had to resolve the issue by pumping surplus water from the Goldthorne Hill reservoir. Now, as far as I know, people in the region of Goldthorne Hill were not living any differently to us. They were not experiencing their own cooler microclimate. So how is it they can have a surplus of treated water if it was the fault of the users due to lockdown and weather? Because to me, that suggests the real issue is the amount of homes currently connected to the Bushby Reservoir. And as far as I know, I'm not aware of any objections that you've put forward against developments here. So while you're reaping the financial benefits of the extra houses, the extra water rates that brings, you don't seem to be investing in the infrastructure in the same places to meet the new demand. And to blame users for this issue, I just don't feel was fair. So therefore, my question basically is, with much more development expected over the coming years, what confidence can residents have, and we have, that you'll be upgrading the infrastructure, supplying our rural villages, which are quite often at the end of lines, I know ours is, with this investment that you've spoke about, to keep up with the future demand in expected warmer climate and to stop this being a repeated problem?
So thank you for that. You've hit a number of key points there. So I think first of all, probably if we did say that we were blaming customers, I think that's probably the wrong message to give. There were issues with it over the lockdown period during the extended hot weather period due to demand. You picked out there 2 reservoirs, Bushby and Essington, and it's down to capacity and retention in those reservoirs. So perhaps due to the height of demand, when we are facing, we design our network to a certain capacity, a certain amount of demand, and we build into that resilience. So we might need, I don't know, 100 million litres of water in a particular area for generally. So we'll make sure we've got 100 million litres of water in storage in that area, so that if we did lose supply to that area for a day, we can maintain those supplies. Over the hot weather, we saw that much demand that our resilience, our capacity, our additional storage over a number of days was just wiped out. So we got to the point where reservoirs such as Essington, which are designed to retain water in the event of a failure or in event of high demand, were just simply drawn down massively. And it's a key point about how we invest. So I did talk before a little bit about being proactive in our investments. So we do look at growth. To my knowledge, and I don't have to go back and check this, we're not a statutory consultee for water. So we are in waste. We don't get consulted in the same way for new developments on water. So and we also got a regulatory right to regulatory responsibility, to supply water anyone who requires it. And definitely, I think there's a balance to be met between more custom and the benefits that provides in terms of additional bill payers, but also we have a responsibility as a regulated and responsible water company to supply a high standard and regular service of water. So I don't want to go back into the detail, but in terms of that area that you mentioned, Essington, if properties in that area received a substandard supply and they make it on-site register, that's when they hit a trigger for investment. But also due to incidents and due to the high demand we have with us, and we've also got a plan in place to invest more money in. And I'm not going into details because I'm not sure of the exact areas, but there are some areas around the business where we're investing additionally to make sure that we've got we call it hot weather demand. So we're putting more capacity into those areas to meet those demands. So I think Councillor Fisher, you raised good points. Hopefully I've understood them, and I think by repeating them back to you, I've perhaps covered those. What I need to do is go away and look into Essington in detail and see what sort of, if there is any additional investment in that area for hot weather, and see what we're going on with there. So
yeah, that'll be brilliant, Matthew. You can. I mean, just to follow up, one of the main issues we have on a regular basis, not just in hot weather, is Essington's fed by booster pumps, and sometimes the booster pumps fail, or if there's not enough water in the storage tanks, the booster pumps automatically cut out as a safety feature, is what we've been told. But one of the other issues we had is there was a lot of compensation given out when this happened, but we had other issues where, you know, one house in the street would get £30 and the next door neighbour would get £60, even though they both suffered the same. So that's a separate issue. But if you're welcome to have further meetings on a smaller basis, sort of locality wise, I know we're very close to Chesley Knight, Featherstone, Shareshill, who also had problems. We'll be able to just go at it a bit more detail.
Thank you for your patience there, and if you're happy to give me a bit more time to look at this, I can do so.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Why the payments will be different, but obviously it shows that, you know, as much as we charge our customers for water, we're also pretty fair. So in those cases where we have given a substandard supply for 1 or 2 days, we do meet our requirements, and we do make sure. And I think we overpay. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think we overpay the amount of money we're required to pay to customers to make sure that to, you know, offset that disturbance and that issues we've caused. And so definitely go away. I've got that down as a note for me basically.
Thank you,
Matthew. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Warren.
Got Councillor Perry next on the list with the hand up. Councillor Perry.
Go ahead, Kath.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Thank you, Annette. Just to say, Matthew, thank you for the part presentation. I just wanted to come in actually a little bit earlier after Mike Boyle, but unfortunately I didn't. Just to go back to what we were saying about Chesley Now, there are issues in Chesley Now still, but I'd like to thank Severn Trent. It was a rising main that had disintegrated, I think, underground. We had the pool wasn't contaminated where I live, the big pool. And they did an excellent job. It took quite a while to do it, and that's why the tankers were up Chesley Now. It took quite a long time for them to do it, but it's a rising main now that's going from Chesley Now straight the way through Great Worley down to Goscott, where the sewerage beds, etc. are. I don't know whether Jack would know more about that as he's into the effluent side of things, but they did an excellent job, and I went out and spoke to them, and they've put it back. Absolutely fantastic. They've moved it, but what you've got to remember is as well that it's not only sewerage, it's, as you rightly said, it's surface water, and there's a lot of surface water now, particularly that goes with these torrential downpours that we have. It was actually through the subsidence of coal movement underground that caused one of the issues with the rising main in Chesley Now, Great Worley. The coal had decided to move that was underground, and obviously it had disintegrated and disconnected some of the pipework. I just thought I'd mention that to you. Jack, you might know more about it, as I've just said. But I wanted to thank Severn Trent for that. But there's still the issues of effluent in people's gardens, and I think we are trying to tackle the issue. I have had meetings with Severn Trent officers, virtual meetings since the lockdowns, and other outside bodies as well, as such as highways. And so we are trying to address the issues in Great Worley, Chesley Now. And obviously, as Warren's said about having a meeting more locally, I'm quite sure we can do that in locality 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Kath. It's Annette. Is there anyone else?
We did have Councillor Ford and Councillor Wilson's hands up. They seem to have gone down, so I'm not sure if you still wanted to raise anything. Councillor Ford first, and then Councillor Wilson, and then Councillor Cox.
Councillor Ford, are you there?
I don't think she's in the
Doesn't
meeting.
look like it, does it now?
Councillor Wilson had a hand up earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I did have my hand up. I think some of the questions that have been asked were probably more urgent than mine, so I was quite happy not to ask a question, but I will now if that's okay. I think I want to thank the people that have come on to present this evening. It's very good of you to come and spend the time to tell us what you had to tell us. I think that some of the questions asked of you, you can tell that there are frustrations there, definitely. And I absolutely agree with some of the members' comments about perhaps the communication side of things needs to be improved. As you've said yourselves, it's all about communication. I do feel that if we can work together, so we've got the district council and the county council that deals with a lot of flooding and leaks and so on, and then yourselves, if we can perhaps have a regular meeting, as was mentioned earlier by Councillor Fisher, I think that there's a lot of potential for improvement of communications to do that. I wondered what your thoughts were on that.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. Yeah. There's. Is that a question? Was that the question to answer? Do you want to speak on that, Matthew?
Yeah, if that's okay. Well, thanks first of all for thanking us for attending. It's something that I think we need to get better at. Obviously, I think if you guys, there's definitely a number of concerns that have been raised. So I think it's something we need to focus on, and we need to get better at. I think in this particular area, it's about also making that sure we get the right people involved. So I don't have the answer for you right now, but I think it's something that I think myself and Jack openly would say, yeah, we need to do something about right now, and then we need to look forward into the future and maintain that sort of discussion, that relationship going forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is a lot of frustration in Great Worley and Chesley Hay, because this is my 6th year on the council, and for all that time we've been discussing basically the same problems regarding flooding and sewage in the villages, and we're still discussing and having the same problems that we had between 6 and 10 years ago. And to the way I think, that's not good enough. We shouldn't be discussing the same problems after 10 years. Something should have been done by now. And some of these issues are not trivial. They're very serious. They're health hazards with sewage coming up and into people's gardens. These are health hazards. They're very, very serious. And we've been mentioning these, bringing these up for getting on for 10 years, if not more. And we're still talking about the same problems. It's just not good enough. I think.
No, definitely. I think
it's just not good enough.
I think what you say today it's with our aim to be the most trusted water company in the UK, and our intention and our progress towards improving our performance in certain areas. We don't want to be faced with these questions. Not faced with these questions, but they're not. It's not the way you want to be seen or perceived, and it's not the way you want to perform. Because, as I said before, the one thing that of all the things that is terrible, having raw sewage or any sort of form of dirty water in your property, is just totally terrible, and we want to make sure that we don't do that. So, I think this is a great. I think it's almost probably, hopefully, a first step towards starting the right conversation to get these resolved. Unfortunately, it's taken us 10 years, but we are definitely here now to listen to you and feed back to you and do that, to share information so that you guys. I think Jack touched on it before, but making sure we're aware of these is really key. I mean, say for example on water, we have 40,000 of widgets on the network that tell us different things. Like we've got water here, we've not got water there. But also customers, we've got 7.5 million customers. They've got a great deal of information that we can really harvest. I think this session is like, it's great to see it, and great to see the passion and the sort of buy-in from you guys. And it's great to see it's not great to see the problems, but it's great to get the problems communicated, if that makes sense. So. Well,
yes, it is, but it's good to see that you're taking note of it.
I'm trying as best I can. There's a lot of writing. I'm not that quick at writing, so I'm trying my best. So.
Oh, yes.
If I can just add, to that as well.
Jack,
I appreciate and emphasise that some of these problems. Yes. Sorry. Whilst a lot of these problems have gone on for such a long period of time, I still encourage you to report each and every incident. They're each and every one of them just as important as the last. And it's not until we get the full vision of the volume of this that you can really reflect some of those investments on the back of it. A lot of the time, if something's happened over a long period of time, you might have gave up reporting it, but I'd strongly encourage you to keep calling it in and keep telling us each and every time it happens.
Yes, there was a questionnaire. I received a questionnaire, as it last week or the week before, from Severn Trent, asking about flooding and problems with water, etc. Do you know anything about that? So I filled it in and sent it back to Severn Trent. I think it was in Derby, an office in Derby, but something obviously is going on. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know the specifics of it, but what it sounds very much like is before we raise a capital project, we do a bit of a pre-promotion exercise where we reach out to communities and do some data collection. So it sounds like the engineering team up there are collecting some data to try and build up a business case to get some money for an investment, likely based around your flood risk. So they're reaching out and they're collecting as much data so they can build a strong business case.
Oh, good. There's movement then. There's movement. One of the other things that we've had some sort of problem with in Chesley Great Worley is that as soon as we've got to know someone who's on your staff, who's we can talk to and explain our problems, etc., and have communication with, 6 months later, we try to get in touch with them, and they've been moved on to somewhere else. So we've got to start all over, and that seems to have been a problem for a long time. People moving on, and we're losing contact with people who can probably help us. So I don't know if that's an issue. Okay, let's move on. Annette, is there someone else?
You have Councillor Lockley, you've got Councillor Cox, Councillor Perry, and then Councillor Lees, but I think Councillor Cox was first.
Thank you.
Well, can I go to Councillor Perry first? Because I think it may be significant to what we've just been talking about.
It is actually, thank you, Chairman. It is actually, I wanted to just come in to say, it's because we've been meeting with the flood risk team at County Council, have been meeting with Severn Trent in relation to Chesley Great Worley, and that's why you've had those leaflets come out asking you about your flooding issues, or your Severn Trent have sent a survey out. I've handed them out myself, if I'll be honest with you, Miss Councillor Lockley, to various places within Chesley and Great Worley. So that's what it's about. We are working in partnership with the flood risk team from County Council. Severn Trent are working together. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for that, Kath. Doing a grand job. Okay, can the ones who have asked questions, can you put your hands down, please? That's Kath and Warren. I think you've still got your hands up. We'll go to Brian Cox now. Brian Cox.
Thank you, Chairman. I live in Bishop's Wood, and in 5 years or so ago, we had a big problem with flooding, largely because of it was a lot of rain, but also we found that across the area there are a lot of broken problems of the HUDs. Now we've worked, and I've got a letter in my hand at the moment which says that a flood help somebody.
Alleviation.
That's it. Scheme has been promised in the Environment Agency's medium term in 2021. I'm wondering whether that's going to go, because at the last bad flooding we had 6 families who were out of their homes for between 4 and 6 months. So this is different to the others. So I'm lucky. I live up the side of the road, but every time it starts really to get wet, I start to pray for those people living just 100 yards down the road. What's the sort of property? Would you know anything about that situation?
So it sounds like, because your letters come from the Environment Agency, whilst sometimes it's difficult to appreciate, flooding comes from multiple different sources. You can get fluvial flood risk, which comes from rivers and watercourses. You can get pluvial flood risk, which is basically just overland flow, flash floods coming off highways and that kind of thing. And then you can get sewer flood risk, where flow's gone underground into the sewerage system and then it's came back out.
Yep.
And unfortunately, different risk authorities are responsible for different types of flooding. And it sounds very much like yours is fluvial flooding, and the Environment Agency, in response to that, have got something in their programme to deal with it. So I don't think it's related to anything we can comment on.
Okay.
We do work in partnership in some schemes. Sometimes there are cases where there's a mixture of a sewer, a fluvial, and other types of flooding. We do work with other bodies in partnership. But it sounds like in this case that's an Environment Agency one, like a non-sewage related flooding element. But hopefully it does go ahead, and hopefully the customers don't get flooded again, because that's not ideal for them.
It will, because the farms aren't able to do what they've been doing. I'd like to say, tell me who I need to get in ward to remind what they've got going in their plan.
So hopefully on the letter from the EA, there should either be a person's name or a group there maybe that might be able to help you out. And that would be my first attempt really to get in touch with them and find out exactly what they're planning and how they're how it's progressing with them. So but hopefully it does, and it sounds like there's a definite need there if people are getting flooded. So
okay, thanks for that. Thanks for helping me through.
That's okay. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I have a problem.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Brian.
Okay.
Thank you, Matthew. Are there any more questions? Annette, anyone else?
No, Councillor Lockley, it doesn't look like it. I think Councillor Lees has indicated that he no longer wishes to ask a question. So it looks like, Councillor Lockley, that you've got no more hands up.
Okay, there was Kath Perry. Did you want to ask a supplementary, Kath, or Warren?
No, thank you, Chairman. No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay,
thank you, Chairman. My hand's down.
Is everyone happy then? Yes, sort of. Okay, we'll wind up there then. And can I say to Annette or Lorraine or both of you, I mean, it's been mentioned a few times tonight that it would be well worthwhile for us to get together, or on an individual basis or a district basis, with Jack and Matthew again, to talk about specific issues and specific problems. So if Jack and Matthew, I think they've already said that they're willing to go with that route. So could we arrange something with them, with Annette or Lorraine or whoever?
Yes, certainly, Chairman. We'll pick that up. I've obviously got Matthew's contact details, so we can get in touch with him after this meeting and get something set up with local members.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, just before you go, Councillor Boyle here. When we had the gentleman from Severn Trent came along to Chesney Parish Council last year, he had a video, well, he had a computer link up which tracked the sewage system in Chesney Hay, showing the levels, the gradients, the capacity. That was very useful. Is that information available to the Parish Council?
Who's going to answer that? Matthew?
So I think certainly the district councils and maybe the county councils have statutory rights and accesses to our asset data. I believe the front of house at some of the councils should have some kind of computer system where they can access our asset data. That's my understanding.
Is that available to parishes? Because we're the people at the sharp end. We're where we're getting the pain.
Can I just answer that? Can I answer that? Hang on a second, Jack. Can I answer that, Mike? I think we discussed this at parish, and I think we have discussed it at district, and it was stated, and someone at district said that yes, we as district councillors were entitled to have that information. But it seemed to the same as everything else, it seemed to wither on the vine, and it never came through, did it? So I think we did come to an understanding that we were as district councillors entitled to that information. Getting that information seems to be an entirely different account, an entirely different thing. So okay. Carry on, Mike. Is there anything else you want to say?
Chairman, I was simply going to say that it was very useful. The chap who showed it to the parish council at our village hall rooms, as you know, it was exactly the sort of information we needed. And it wasn't confidential, but I just wondered if we could possibly get a copy or something like that so that we can work with Severn Trent. We're not really antagonistic. We just want to get the problem sorted.
Yeah, I think we'll have to bring that up again, Mike. I think the answer that we got last time was a positive one, and I think we need to push it again. We need to bring it up again. John, is John Gehring there? Is John, you still there? John Gehring? No, he's gone home.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here, Chairman.
John.
John.
John Gehring. Oh yeah. We've mentioned the environmental side of things, the health side of things, and what worries me a little bit more than anything really is this sewage that's coming up into people's gardens. Now that is an environmental health issue, surely, but I haven't heard any mention of it at our district level. Have you got anything you want to say on that to us?
Yeah. No. Are my colleagues from Severn Trent still on the line as well?
Yeah,
they're still there. So a while back now, a lot of the sewage network was transferred into the ownership of Severn Trent Water. So a large number of the problems that occur with blockages and sewage are now dealt with by Severn Trent Water. We only get involved where there's a blockage in what we call a drain. So the vast majority of problems that go on with sewage and sewage systems are in fact dealt with by Severn Trent Water now.
Yeah. Okay. That's I think that answers my question. Thank you, John. Well, I don't think there's any more questions, are there? Annette, can I ask you if there are any more questions? No.
There aren't, Councillor Lockley. No, there's no hands. Let me just double check. Let me just go right down the bottom of the list just to be absolutely clear. No, you've got no hands up there, Councillor Lockley. That's the end of the request to speak.
Okay, thank you for that, Annette. Well, I'm sorry, everyone, that it's been such a long meeting, but I think it's important that we take our time to resolve these problems, resolve these issues. So I'm glad that we've had a good session on this, and I'm happy that we're going to take it forward with further meetings, and let's hope, fingers crossed, that we can eventually get something done with these problems. On that note, I don't think there's anything else. I'll call the meeting to a close.
Sorry,
Thank you all very much for attending, and thank you for your patience.
Sorry, Chairman. There's just the work programme report.
Oh God, yes. It's a good job you're with us.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go on to the final.
Safety item, but it'll be 2 minutes.
Okay, carry on. Can I ask Matthew? Is Matthew still there? Can you clear?
Yeah.
can you clear your, we've got round up further questions. Can you clear that off your screen or on? That's right. Thank you. Get rid of it. Yeah. Okay.
So members, just moving on to the work programme report, just very quickly, just to update you, obviously there were a number of items suggested for scrutiny as set out at 4.4 of the report. This meeting tonight is taking the first of those, and we're still liaising with County Council colleagues to get the other 2 items to a future meeting. So hopefully by the next meeting we'll be able to update members further on those 2 further topics for scrutiny. And then at the next meeting in January, obviously that's the budget meeting, so the substantial part of that meeting will be set over for the budget setting and scrutiny of the budget going forward. And we're due at that meeting to have a challenge panels update. As members will be aware, we've suspended challenge panels due to COVID-19 and officers and members being tied up on other things, but we're hoping to get those started again in the new year, and then we'll bring an update to the January meeting. So through yourself, Chairman, happy to take any questions, but that's just the update report for members.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. Has anyone got any questions? No? Good. We can all go home. Oh, we already are. We are home, aren't we? Thank you for that, Lorraine. And if there's nothing else, no one's got anything else to say now?
There are no hands up, Councillor Lockley. No, there are no hands up.
Well, good. So we'll say thank you very much for attending. Thank you to Jack and to Matthew, and thank you for your patience. I know what we've been doing really is having a damn good moan at you, isn't it really? But sometimes it's the only way you can get things done. So look, thank you very much, and thank everyone for attending, and I'll call the meeting to a close now and say good night all. Good night. And
Good night.
Good night, David.
Good night. Good night. Good night.